Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I've got another fantastic guest for the audience today, Adam Bird. He's founder and CEO of Heroes Media Group. He's also got a military background and he's a podcaster. He's a content creator. He helps individuals start businesses. So today's talk is going to be all about serial entrepreneurship, starting a business, and all of Adam's stories. So Adam, welcome.
Hey, Christopher, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so like I said, I love this space where we can just talk about business and for share with the audience and tell by starting your story, how you got started, what you learned and what you're doing now.
So my story, man, how much time do we have here? No, Army veteran. After high school, I joined the military. I joined the National Guard. Did that for about 9 years. Um, and since it was the National Guard, I had a day job too, and I bounced around from a couple different Fortune 500 companies. And I became a single parent during that process as well. But my from the business journey, I realized I had worked for a company for several years, loved the work, and they had a huge layoff. And this was around 2010. And I was so upset at first, and I didn't realize that it was actually a blessing in disguise. There was really nowhere for me to go after that. So I was part of their big layoff, this company's big layoff.
Mhm.
And I kind of realized at that point, I had owned some side jobs, like side hustle, jobs in the past. And I realized I need to be into business myself. I'm tired of trying to grow somebody else's dream and not have some type of, you just never know. And there's people out there that want to work for other people. God bless you. That's not where my mind was at. Um, so in 2013, I was working at a company and I decided, I woke up one morning, I said, that's it, I'm done. And it was April 1st of 2013 is when I took the leap of faith. And I walked in. I'd never quit a job before. I walked in and some things had been brewing to kind of lead up to it. But that day was the day I pulled the trigger and I said, okay, I'm done. And I've been unemployed, self-employed, whatever, since 2013 up to now. Now what I'm doing is I've been doing internet radio podcasting since 2012. Actually, in 2011, I'd cut my teeth in a local radio station in Scottsdale, Arizona. Kind of caught the bug. I never would have guessed that I would have been in the any type of entertainment setting. And a friend of mine at the time, we started the very first all veteran podcast network, and we would help other people in the veteran community start a podcast. And this was still when internet radio was very, very new. Podcasting wasn't new. It's been around since about 2005, but it still was very, very new back then. And ran that for about 3 years. And then in 2015, we parted ways. We shut that business down. And the very next day I filed paperwork and created what is now known as Heroes Media Group. It's a digital media publishing company. So I still help people start and small businesses. We help them start podcasts. We do audio, video production, transcription, anything related with podcasts. We do. But then we also help authors publish audiobooks as well. So we do the production of audiobooks, and I've been doing that now for, like I said, since 2012.
Yeah, fantastic journey, and I love that. And I have a similar experience. September 2008. Just fed up with the system, just turning in my keys, badge, and pager, and it was like, see you later.
Yeah.
So it's quite a liberating feeling when I look back on it.
It really is. And here's the thing about it. Like, people ask us, like, what'd you do the next day? I was terrified the
Yeah.
next day. When I walked away, I was just like, I woke up the next morning, I was like, I have a house, I got a mortgage, I got two vehicles that I got to pay for, and I'm a single parent, and I have no income coming in starting now. And it was just like, you want to talk about put your feet to the fire. This is not something I recommend doing. I mean, this was, fortunately it worked out for me. There's been struggles along the way, but that's to be anticipated, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't have any money in the bank or anything like that. It was just like quit, and then you just kind of figure it out. And for me, I've always been one to learn. life the hard way or try to make it harder than it needs to be. But it's been a blessing. I looking back at my life for the last decade, I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of amazing things. And for me, more importantly, it's the people that you meet along the journey and how you get to help them achieve the things that they want to pursue.
Yeah, I love that. I love that the journey and the people you meet and the experiences and just makes, life that much more worth living for. So you have a lot of experience with like mindset, and a lot of the best podcast guests I've had on the show come from a military background. One was like a Navy SEAL, the other is like West Point, and like they have all these similarities in terms of mindset. So how does mindset really help you from a military perspective succeed as an entrepreneur?
It's kind of instilled in us. I wasn't a special operator, or I didn't graduate from West Point. I was what they call an NCO, non-commissioned officer, when I got out. I was a truck driver when I was in. I didn't like walking, so I drove everywhere. But they teach you leadership, and a lot of the nice thing about it is when you're in the military, it's a mixing pot of just different people with different backgrounds, and you have to learn how to work with other people, and you learn how, hey, what works for this group doesn't necessarily work with that group over there, or vice versa, right? And I think that was one of the great things, being in the military. It teaches you discipline. You have to be very disciplined, and if you're not disciplined already, you become disciplined very quickly. And that was one of the things. And there was structure there. It taught you a lot of structure, and it really gave you, for me, the military gave me a lot of self-confidence that I lacked, in my younger years of life. I didn't have any self-confidence or whatnot. So it taught me to get through hard things and realize, hey, if I can get through this,
Mhm.
I can get through anything in life, because I have the confidence now and the training, right, to just have that mindset. Like, you can get through anything, man. Just do it. It might not be easy, but you know what? Life is what you make it, right? It can be easy, it can be hard, and life can be hard on us sometimes. But when life gets hard, that's where you have to flip the switch. And that's about that mindset that we're talking about. Is you have to have that mindset is like, okay, it's hard, but I'm going to just take it day by day, and I take it step by step. Some days you're taking leaps and bounds. Other days you may only do a shuffle and get a few feet. But you know what? You continue to move forward. That's the important thing.
I love that. I love just one step could be a big win for one day. Then, 1 mile could be a big step for the next. So I love this. And talking about challenges and triumphs, and you mentioned what I've really found fascinating with podcasting is actually how early we still are, and you are actually in on the key, on the ground. So what key trends do you see emerging, and how should aspiring podcasters adapt to stay relevant?
No, that's a great question. Because I've seen the landscape change so much. A decade ago there was 4 hosting platforms that were main out there. And two of them aren't even around anymore. I think moving forward though with podcasting, every AI is like the artificial intelligence is like the big thing, right? It's the shiny object that everybody's gravitating towards. And I look at it as a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool. There's some parts of it, that are good, and there's some parts of it that are bad, and that's a completely another topic for another day. But you look at the tools that are out there right now, and if you're not use them. Use all the tools that you can. I think a lot of people, I'll put it to you this way. People that are out there that are thinking about starting a podcast, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a part-time job. Take the mindset that podcasting is a part-time job. If you think you're going to start a podcast and you're going to get 10,000 downloads and you're the next Joe Rogan, I'm sorry to tell you this, and I say this from a place of love, you're not. Stop thinking that, because it's not going to happen. That's not to say it couldn't happen later on, but how ignorant do you have to be to come in and think, oh, you have no social media presence to this. And that's not to discourage anybody. I say that because that's the reality of it. What you need to do is let's come up with a game plan and let's look at the longevity of it. And let's be realistic. How often do you plan on recording? Well, I want to do once a week. Great. Are you going to set aside time? When are you going to do that? How often? How much time are you going to give you have to edit the show. You got to do this. Then you got to market the show. How are you going to do that? Social media marketing, email campaigns. How are you going to keep track of everything? And people are like, oh, wait a minute. I got to do all that. Well, yeah. And if you want to do it right, there's a lot that goes into it, right? But here's the biggest thing. And you know this, Chris, because you've been doing this a while too. Anybody can start a podcast, right?
Yeah.
We walk around with these pocket computers. You could start a podcast from your phone and post it onto your phone, through your phone, excuse me. The biggest thing I would say, know what it is that you want to talk about. And here's the thing. I'm going to tell you two things right now, folks. I'm going to tell you the first thing that people get discouraged about. People get discouraged because they say, well, there's so many other podcasts out there. Who's going to listen to me? Okay, that's fine if that's the mindset you want to take. Chris and I'll use us as an example. Chris and I are sitting here, we're talking. Chris says something, and we're talking about underwater basket weaving. And the way that Chris explains underwater basket weaving, he makes it look like an art flow and ebbs and flows, and people are like resonating with it because they understand what he's saying. I could be saying the same thing, but I'm saying it in a different tone, or I'm just explaining it a little bit differently. Some people will gravitate more towards Chris because they understand it. Some people will gravitate more towards me because of the way I'm saying it. The point that I'm making is you're not going to get anywhere sitting on your butt doing nothing. You have to get out and do it. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. If you believe that this is going to help, if you're a small business owner, you should have a podcast. Talk about the products that you have. Talk about what you do for a business, etc. You should be doing it. Everybody has a story to tell. It's just a matter of how you tell that story.
Yeah, I love that. And what I really love about podcasting is, first, like is like you own the show. It's like, you can host it on different platforms, but you have that RSS feed. So, it can't be taken away. And
Right.
so it's beautiful. And, for the first year or so, I just approached podcasting as just working out, eating right, staying consistent. Really, I didn't expect to make any profits or anything. It was just more to stay consistent. So for people out there listening, you said approach it as a hobby or a side income or something on the side. So what's the best way to get started? In terms of content, what they should talk about, how to get guests on the show.
Great questions. So I want to start a podcast, Chris. What's the first thing I should do? Well, write it out. Grab a pen and a piece of paper. When I coach people that come to me and say, Adam, I want to start a podcast, I tell them, grab a piece of paper. I'm going to give you 5 days. It's Monday. I'm going to give you till Friday. I expect an email from you this Friday. And in that email, I want the name of the show, or come up with 3 or 4 different names for your show. And then I want 10 bullet points of topics that you would like to talk about. And under those 10 topics, leave space for like subcategories that you would talk about. If you can create 10 topics that you would talk about, then I can show you how to move forward with that. Because some people like, oh, Adam, okay, so I have to get through all of these questions back for you. No, you don't. Go with the flow. If you do a interview type podcast, let's say, nobody knows how many questions you have written down. People think about, oh, I got to do this question. I got to do this question. No, you have to have a conversation with the person that's sitting in front of you or next to you. It makes it more organic. Here's the easiest way. And this is free advice for all of you that are listening that do interview podcasts right now. In the sales world, they have an 80-20 rule, is what they call it. That means the sales rep listens 80% of the time and talks 20. I don't like that. I call it the 90-10 rule. Adam Bird's 90-10 rule. You ask an open-ended question and then shut your mouth and let the other person talk.
Yeah.
But while they're talking, you guide them down the path that you want them to go, because it's still your show as the host, right? And as an individual, come up with topics that you that you like or that you're passionate about to talk about.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah, I love that. I love this idea where where you're talking about just get started, don't overanalyze it, just find and then eventually you fine tune, you find
Yes.
your craft. And next question that a lot of listeners are listening to is like, okay, well, I don't have time to be a podcast host, but talk about they can still get the benefits of podcasting via podcast guesting. Kind of talk about
Yeah.
that aspect.
So one of the goals that I had last year was I wanted to get on two shows a month. That was just don't ask me where I came up with the number. I just threw it out there like two shows a month. And I started manifesting that, and I was getting people left and right asking me to be on the shows. And it works. And in doing that, if you're a business owner and you don't have time to do a show yourself, or you don't have somebody in your company that can do a podcast show, being a guest on somebody else's show is a great marketing tool just for yourself. Your name's getting out there. And a lot of the times it's not costing you anything to do it other than maybe 30 minutes to an hour to be a guest on somebody's show. Yeah, I'd do that and twice on Sunday. That's free because now you're building your media credentials and whatnot that, hey, as seen on all of these shows here, like, and then as you continue to build that, more and more people are going to be like, oh, this guy's been on 150 plus podcasts in the last 18 months, must be a big deal, let's go click on listen to that. And more people start reaching out to you that way. I think being a guest on other shows is fantastic. It's a great way to market your business
Yeah,
and yourself for that matter, and yourself for that matter.
I love that. And a lot of people are saying podcasting is like the new book tours. It's like you can just hop on different people's platforms, trade different brands, and go on the YouTube. And you don't need to, physically go to stores or places. You can actually we've got Zoom technology and video streaming. So really fascinating. And I love this idea how you've blended your experience with helping content creators, podcasters. If people wanted to find out more about you and reach out to you on social media, check out your company, how would they do that?
Thanks for that, Chris. A couple different ways. They can check out the media company at Heroes Media Group, heroesmediagroup.com. You can follow us on all of the social media platforms at Heroes Media GRP, or if you go to Mr. Adam Bird, that's just Mr. Adam BIRD, like a bird that flies. So mradambird.com, and it'll list all the companies, and you can reach me and send me emails and direct messages there as well.
And for all the audience out there, let's thank Adam for coming on and really sharing a lot of knowledge and expertise. Be sure to give him a like and follow on all of his socials. And for those of you interested in podcast guesting or hosting, reach out to him. He helps people start podcasts and kind of provides guidelines and guidance through that. So reach out to him. And with that, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Thank you.